Good morning, everyone, and welcome to our session around building a culture that enables innovation post-COVID. I'm delighted that you're joining us here today. I'm Clare Alexander, and I'm the Head of Workplace Innovation and Inclusive Business Models at Scottish Enterprise. And we're privileged today to be joined by Michelle Reid, who is the People Director at the Institute of Occupational Medicine, an organisation whose purpose is to improve people's health and safety at work, at home, and in the environment through excellent independent science and research. And we're also joined by Tony Marks, who's the Chief Executive Officer of 2020 Project Management, which provides businesses with project management training and learning and leadership consultancy services. Both of whom will share their insight and approaches to building a culture that enables innovation post-COVID. Now, I think more than ever before, we're living in a world which is volatile and it does seem so uncertain and complex. Obviously, that's further exacerbated by the current global pandemic. But this does create opportunities for reinvention and changing ways of working. So, with a future that is uncertain, we are all trying to find our feet. At Scottish Enterprise, we're working with businesses to help them adapt and be prepared for the changing landscape in which we find ourselves. Innovation is certainly one way to do this, both in terms of business practices and structures, and also internally with employees. Now, this requires leaders to have a culture of engagement with their employees and a growth mindset to drive business growth through innovation. What does that really mean in practice, though? It might be about reducing hierarchical command and control leadership and considering flatter structures, empowering employees to think and act like owners. Or it could be about being flexible. We've all learned how to work more flexibly and more efficiently. Children, pets, and Amazon delivery drivers have almost become a normal feature of our working lives together. It's also about being open to collaboration and being multidisciplinary. So, in today's session, our two panel members will highlight what they have done in their businesses, both in terms of their business models and practices. So, without further ado, I'd like to turn to Michelle and Tony and put them in the hot seat. So Michelle, can you maybe kick us off? I know that you joined the Institute of Occupational Management in January 2019. Medicine, sorry, it is always one of those things I get wrong. My apologies. It's the Occupational Medicine in January 2019, a long-established organisation. Can you maybe outline the journey that you have been on to transform the company's culture and working practices? And maybe summarise how you've created that culture of innovation and the impact that this has had on the business. And just to reiterate, it's occupational medicine.
Or IOM to make it easy. IOM to make it easy.
Great.
Well, where to start, really? I guess for me, I was appointed to the board in 2019, so I had a year before then to understand the business. So it's been a whirlwind over the last 3 years. But it started before I even joined with our CEO. He was appointed over 4 years ago, and he understood that transformational change was needed, but wasn't really sure where to start. And bearing in mind that actually he had a career in the business of over 40 years. So, a very extensive career, grew up in the organisation. So what he did was he reached out to Scottish Enterprise and he called on his authentic leadership style and his curiosity and his thought leadership to say, actually, I don't have the answers, but that's okay, let's find it out from someone else. Scottish Enterprise worked really well with them. They recommended an organisational development review. And as you can imagine, from that, there was a number of different actions, ideas, opportunities, and one of which was to appoint a full-time strategic HR professional. Hello. And one of the second was to become part of the Workplace Innovation and Engagement Programme. And what these two things really did for us was it enabled us to connect more effectively with our people, really hear their voice, and understand where the key issues and opportunities lay. because who better to get it from than the people who are on the front line? And this really was the launch pad of our leadership development and transformational change journey, because it's really been that. In a nutshell, our starting point was to help our leaders understand their role. So not just as transactional resources, but as a fully engaged leaders who create an environment for their people to grow and to thrive. And secondly, we recognise the need to reconnect our people with the vision and core purpose of the business. The people had been there for a long time. They had kind of forgotten what we were all about. And in essence, what we wanted to do was to re-establish the meaning in their work. So what I do has value. What I do connects with that, connects with the strategic aims, regardless of what it is and what level that we sit. We gave all of our people at all levels heightened levels of self-awareness, empathy, accountability, and the ability to use their voice and be listened to. So in effect, we've created transformational change across the organisation, from simplification, automation and digitalisation of processes. It was amazing how I think antiquated in some areas we were, but also innovative in some, but they weren't kind of merged together. And also a cultural shift away from micromanagement, hierarchy, lack of accountability, people waiting for someone else to do something or to bring an idea forward or raise an issue, to a culture of people-centred change, creativity and transparency. And I think what I would say is the impact has been absolutely profound. So we have turned the business around from operating on the breadline, often in the red, to actually having money in the bank, a healthy set of KPIs and a workforce who is much more engaged, motivated and productive.
Thanks very much, Michelle. That sounds a fabulous success story and a turnaround story, and good to know you've got money in the bank. That's yeah, definitely, it's good impact. And I guess that much of what you said there, I'm sure will resonate with you, Tony, because I'm conscious that I read recently a blog, I think that you have written, where I think you said one of the things that a leader who claims to have all the answers is sure to fail. And I think sort of, Michelle, the approach that your leader took in terms of bringing employees within the business and having that people-centered change focus really resonates with some of your thinking, Tony. I'm conscious as well, I think in your article, Tony, you flagged that throughout the last year in terms of COVID, one of the key things that really worked for you as an organization was collaboration, but individuals were only possible to collaborate because they had a belief in each other. So I think one of the key distinguishing features around 2020 is that you're an employee-owned company. So I think you even said that, you know, you came of age in a COVID environment because the belief in each other and your business partners, when challenged by adversity, really was a critical thing that managed to help you through the pandemic and continues to do so. So just over to you, Tony. Can you maybe share a little bit of your journey?
Yeah, there's some interesting parallels with Michelle's journey as well and her organisation. We were formed in 2003 and have grown fairly steadily since then. We've been a Scottish Enterprise Account Managed company in recent years, and that's enabled us to access a lot of different ways of thinking about different things. But one of the key things for us was about engagement. We'd always felt that although we had a good professional team, we weren't tapping into all their ideas and all the possible innovations that could take place. And we knew that was about engagement, and we'd looked at various different ways of doing that. We'd attended seminars, read case studies, tried some different things with some success. But for us, in parallel to that, in recent times, we've been looking at succession planning. And as a result of that, we'd looked into employee ownership, again, attended some seminars, read up on it, got some consultancy externally to help us with that. And that really led us to this idea of employee ownership, which suddenly seemed to be the answer for us. A, because it gave us a long-term future, because myself and the other founders are in their 50s and 60s in some cases. So we're starting to look ahead. We've been bringing on people and developing their careers within the company. But employee ownership would give them a stake in that company as well. And we felt that might be the key to getting improved engagement and really get everyone pulling in the same direction, because it's everyone genuinely owns the company. So 2 years ago, we went through the employee ownership process. We have an elected rep from the Employee Ownership Trust that sits on our board. They communicate frequently with the staff. We have weekly team meetings. We've had that certainly through the last year or two. Learning that we couldn't over communicate was one of the things that came out of that. And that EOT, employee ownership rep, also has a team of change agents, which again have been put forward by the different teams in the company that work together. So they've just recently completed a culture document, for example, where they've distilled down their views of the company culture should be, which is about empowerment, respect, innovation, and fun, and a list of specific actions to get us there and keep us there over the next period. So the EOT, the employee ownership route for us, actually formed that last bit of the jigsaw. So we've got good engagement, we've got good innovation through the change agents, and similar story to Michelle, our profits are up, our share value's up, and everyone's got their employee ownership bonuses each year. And that really makes it real, because they can see a direct outcome from that engagement. So our change agents, they meet together, they meet in their own teams, they try out new innovations without any reference to us as a board. They're left alone to do that and try things out, encouraged to try things. And we maintain two-way communication through weekly all staff meetings, team forums, and direct reporting between the Employee Ownership Trust, the staff, and the board on a regular basis. And it's that communication, constant communication, that seems to be the key for us. And with very similar results to Michelle.
Lots of parallels, Tony.
Yeah, absolutely.
And it sounds to me, yeah, it sounds to me as if absolutely at the heart of it is communicate.
Well, you cannot communicate enough. If you
Yeah.
think you've communicated enough, someone said to me before, communicate another 10 times and you might be somewhere close.
And I'm wondering how you measure the fun aspect of your values, Tony. But so that your 4 values were engagement, innovation, respect, and fun.
Yeah, that's it. And it's the staff's values. It's their values.
The staff, absolutely. It's all, yeah, right. So I mean, I think that's a really helpful summary of kind of each of your journeys, which, as you say, bear many parallels. Perhaps what would sort of help those who are joining us today is if you were to think around your biggest barriers or challenges and how you overcame those. So maybe, Michelle, if I could turn to you first, and I imagine it could be a long list here, but maybe your top 2 or 3. Oh, no.
No, so there's only really 2 big barriers. And I mean, you could go into a big, long list, but fundamentally at the heart of it is really about resistance to change and skepticism. So, you know, it goes back to that people-centered thing. If you can untap and unlock your people, anything's possible. Nothing's a challenge or a barrier, and it all becomes an opportunity. You know, what I found, particularly as a newbie coming into this organisation, where the average tenure was around 15 years and people had been there for a long time, they had experienced lots of different change journeys, and quite rightly were sceptical about some of the things that we were talking about and thinking about, and really wondering why we were much more curious about what they were doing. So you can imagine some of the responses, and I'm interested to see if Tony will be nodding his head at hearing some of these, and yourself, Clare. You know, oh, we've done this before, it doesn't work. If it's not broke, don't fix it. Oh, you know, you don't understand what it's like here, and you know, we can't do that because it's too complex, or you know, our work is unique, and all of these kind of things. You know, anything to kind of shy away from doing something different, or letting someone in and getting someone to kind of understand or think about things differently. And interestingly, we created a group of change champions. So, you know, again, those parallels with you, Tony. So we shifted the thinking. So typically what would happen is we would be so focused on those people who said no, or those that gave a bit of negative feedback, that we forgot about this small group of people who were on the bus. So those small group of people in the beginning who were going, oh yeah, I'm up for this, I've been crying out for this, let me at it. So we had a group of, you know, 6 or 8 people who were really interested. So we shifted our attention from the resistors to the champions, and actually used those champions to create a ripple effect. And actually that ripple effect grew, and it took time and effort, and it was difficult, and you had to call on your resistance quite a lot, but that ripple effect grew. So what happened then is we had a majority of change agents and a minority of the skepticism and the resistors. And actually that's what's happened. And I guess for us, one of the opportunities that's come out of the pandemic is that our strategy during the pandemic didn't change. What happened was that the people who were resistant before actually were then automatically on the bus, because they understood survival. They understood sustainability for the future. But because there was a crisis there, they just got on board, and the resistance went. So actually we were able to accelerate some of our strategic aims and some of the activities in our strategy that we were already starting to implement, and that was quite nice. So yeah, that I would say that's the biggest barrier. Really, it's about, there is no silver bullet. So, you know, you have to be adaptable, and you have to have different ways of communicating. No one size fits all, different opportunities for people to come in, and actually don't waste your time on the resistors. Celebrate and work with those that are the champions, because they will bring the resistors along, and they will challenge them as well. Give them their voice, celebrate that, and the rest will come along.
That sounds really positive, Michelle. I've no doubt that Tony will see parallels in terms of how 2020 have tackled this. I just thinking to myself there when you were talking about that, it's quite staggering to think that out of an unprecedented situation in terms of the pandemic and COVID, it's almost one feels it's quite difficult to say that there are opportunities that have arisen. But I guess in the case for some businesses, opportunities have arisen from that, and you've been able to seize that and work with that in order to bring the workers and the employees with you around that. Yeah, Tony, from your perspective, I guess, yeah, what were the biggest barriers that you have found?
Yeah, just about everything that Michelle's mentioned already, but I think the one I really recognised was the so what response. We'd launched this change program, and we're looking for workplace innovation alongside the employee ownership thing. And I think for the first year or two, we were kind of struggling to agree what should be different. We've already touched on communication and how important that is, but it was really a case of just keeping driving on and on and on through it, and looking for what would make the change. One of the biggest things we found was actually as part of our management team, which was to challenge ourselves on openness, and test that openness all the time, and to make sure we were creating a true openness of information, including where we didn't have the answers, which was quite key, and just being honest about that and engaging with the whole team to try and get answers or better answers to issues as they came up. And in another parallel, it was really the pandemic that put all that to the test, because we were faced with really two choices, which was to furlough everyone, close the door and wait because we're a training company, or to completely transform our business overnight. And we quickly as a team came to that decision. Everyone kind of knew their role in that, what they needed to do, and all we really needed then was lots of communication, which is obviously the theme we return to each time. So it was a big test for it, but it came through it, and everyone now believes in it. And the trust is there to have that level of openness about what we know and what we don't know as well.
No, so I guess as you both reflect on the difficult last year or so, it's amazing that we can find sort of a silver lining to it. But from what you're saying, I think the key, apart from the fact that communication is absolutely key, it's the ownership that your employees feel around that, around the business, and wanting to work together in order to really try to drive change through and achieve an impact. I'm conscious that as we're sort of coming towards the end of our time together today, although I know we move on to our question and answer session, just really trying to ask you if you can summarize effectively, if you were having to advise perhaps individuals in our audience today, what practical steps they could take in order to develop that culture of innovation and a culture of engagement within their businesses, what would be, I don't know, maybe the top 3 things that you would advise them to think about? And I'm conscious that not the one size doesn't fit all, so I know you'll both be caveating that, but I think from your experience and the insights you've shared today, it'd be really helpful just to sort of think, what are the key 3 top tips from each of you?
So for me, it's really easy, Claire, and you've taken the words right out of my mouth. There's no silver bullet, no one size fits all. You need to be mindful of that. Your organisation is yours and your people. So take the time to really understand your business, what its core purpose is, what its vision and values, and do your people understand it and do they agree with it? Because it's amazing what you can find out when you take the time to talk to people. They want to talk to you. They want to tell you where the challenges are. They want to tell you their ideas. They want to feel part of the organisation and feel like they have value and meaning. And quite frankly, they'll probably have the answers. And that it's a lovely thing. All they need is for someone to champion their voice and create the ripple effect. And once they feel psychologically safe, it will start happening naturally and organically. But you need to be patient. It takes time. It is hard work. And it takes a lot of resistance. You will have a lot of knocks along the way, but it's learning from it, not thinking that it's failure, learning from it and going, right, let's go again, let's go again, let's go again. And remember, it's a continuous journey. It's not a destination. There's no end point, and that's okay, because that's what makes it exciting and worth it.
Well, you certainly sound pretty fired up, Michelle. You've certainly enthused me. But I like that champion their voice aspect. And I can think of nothing better than an employee-owned business structure or model, Tony, that enables you to enable that as a team in terms of unleashing the power of that team and championing the voice of individuals within the business. So I guess turning to you, you're maybe top 3 tips to help us.
Well, it's probably 3 more because all of Michelle's, so we go for all of those. I think the first one was management change, which was admitting that you don't have all the answers, and you certainly don't have all the best answers, so that the wider team truly believe that you are looking to engage them to get their ideas, get their innovations, is the first one. The second one is believing in open engagement. The management team have to believe in it, have to be seen to be believing it without any exception, and that involves them having a belief in their people and the people in the company, and that belief thing is really important. And then finally, and we've come back to it throughout, but is communicate relentlessly. Just keep communicating. As Michelle said, I think sometimes you think, I've got nothing more to say, but there's always something more, and someone else has always got some other point to throw in the pot, and that's where you get some of the gold from.
So I think that's really been helpful. I'm conscious that we're sitting here at the start of 2021, and indeed, we certainly are in uncertain waters, uncertain times. I'm trying to think in terms of as we move forward, what you have each sort of maybe focused on as being, the key thing that will really embed and continue the changes that you have initiated with the team. So I'm just wondering what you, as you look to the future, and I know situation changes on a daily basis. So just maybe a short point on kind of what will you try to focus on to ensure there's a sustainability, that this isn't just a flash in the pan, people all responding and put, all hands to the deck, given the pandemic? How do you sustain it? So I just, maybe a final thought around that in terms of the future from both of you.
So for me, it's about continued connection. So one of the biggest challenges with the pandemic is keeping people connected. So we're all working in isolation at home, or we're working in, in our case, a laboratory on their own in the office. The reality is you need to remain connected, and one of the opportunities is being able to do that through technology, one being as we are just now. So it's actually using every opportunity that you've got to harness the voice in whatever way it is. So that ties into the point that Tony and I both come back to: communication. Keep communicating with your people, keep checking in, give them the opportunity to tell you what's happening, what ideas they've got, what's going well, but ultimately provide that psychologically safe environment where they can come and say, I'm struggling, or they can come and say, I'm unhappy, or they can come and say, this is really great, I'd like to keep this, and encourage that with no fear of reprisal. Because ultimately, people-centered change is about ensuring and reassuring people you have their back. And Tony's talked about that with the employee ownership as well. They want to feel like they're part of the bigger picture, but actually that they're looked after and they're safe as well.
Thanks, Michelle. Tony, anything to add to that?
Only that for us, the next challenge, and it is about keeping this momentum together, is that we're starting to grow again. So we've had the same team through the pandemic, we're starting to grow again. That's thrown up new questions, because we want to recruit in a way that we get people in that will want to work in our culture, and will fit with the other team members. So that's added some new dynamics, some new challenges, particularly as that we're going to have to go through that interviewing and induction virtually.
Yes. Yeah.
So lots more challenges ahead.
Lots of parallels, Tony, doing the same. Happy to help.
Good.
Great. That's what we want to make sure we're doing: connecting, challenging, and networking amongst all of us. So yeah, Michelle, Tony, that sounds as if you'll be able to connect a little bit more after this session. So I guess maybe just in terms of wrapping up, can I just say a big thank you to both of you for sharing your insight, and I will get this right this time. So that's Michelle Reid, who is the Director of People at the Institute of Occupational Medicine, and Tony Marks, who is a Chief Executive Officer at 2020. And I would just like to say that the session today has obviously raised a number of questions, and I think picking your brains, that we'll all want to ask you a few more questions. I really want to sign up and work for both of your organisations. That's where you've left me. I want to feel as connected as you clearly make your employees feel. So I think one of the key things just to note for the rest of the audience is that at Scottish Enterprise, and I think both Michelle and Tony alluded to the fact that they have accessed our support over the years, we certainly are keen to make sure that we can provide support and advice, even if it's just a sounding board. Our workplace innovation team, and indeed our innovation team, not forgetting Cooperative Development Scotland, who would have obviously worked closely with you, Tony, as you moved through the employee ownership journey. We have a vast source and resource of expertise available. So I would ask anybody within the audience to effectively get in touch with us if you need additional support. I think the other thing I would encourage everybody who's attending today to do is to make best use of the networks that you will establish today as you attend the different sessions. None of this is rocket science. So a lot of this is about learning from experience and seeking advice and support from other individuals. So if you would like to ask either Michelle or Tony any questions directly, you will be able to join a session in the breakout rooms and pick their brains. So without further ado, thank you very much, both of you, for supporting the session today. And as I say, if the audience can look at the breakout rooms now, they should be able to seek additional information. Thank you very much.